Kia ora e te whānau, no mai hoki mai ki tēnei hōtaka. Something for the people. We've got a great kaupapa kōrero i tēnei wā nei. Obviously, ko hoki mai, kere am I right, hene rua, tēnā tātou.
Kia ora, kia ora.
Now, tō tātou manuhiri e te whānau, you fellas would have seen her on multiple different platforms, multiple different hōtakas, multiple, whether it's online, whether it's in writing, everywhere, whether it's in real life as well. And no tātou, no te hōtaka nei te maringa nui, kua tai ora mai, tō tātou tuahine tēnā ngata tēnā koe.
Kia ora rā, tēnā tātou, kia ora.
Very, very interesting kaupapa kōrero we've got in front of us. I feel like this kaupapa kōrero could go in many different ways.
Ai. Ia tātou ka kōrero mō ngā toatau wā o ngā rā omua.
Yes.
Ko tīna tētahi. O tēnei wā, i nai nei. E tohe ana i ngā mahi whakaparahako a te kāwanatanga, a ngā kāwanatanga o te ao ki ngā iwi take. Ana mehe mea ka tātou ka titiro ki ngā mahi a tēnei kāwanatanga i nai nei. The list goes on. I don't need to list any of them. My question to you is this an unprecedented situation that Te iwi Māori is facing with all of these attacks on our rights, on our kaupapa, on Te Tiriti, on Te Reo? Is this something that you've kind of never seen before? He hon whakaaro.
Yeah, in living memory, it certainly is unprecedented. You'd have to go pretty far back in history for us to find this level of racism stemming out of the government. Particularly in relation to their hostility to Te Tiriti o Waitangi and the Waitangi Tribunal. They themselves have expressed that they want to wind back the scope of the tribunal to 1975. So there's an easy marker that we're looking at least 50
Trying to go
years.
back to 1975.
Yes, exactly. And so one of our other, leaders in this space, Claire Charters, has been pretty clear that this is the most racism that we've faced in at least 50 years.
Some would say we've made so much progress.
Yes.
In terms of Te Ao Māori, recognition of Te Tiriti, increased use of Te Reo Māori. Why do you think this is happening at this moment now?
Well, I think the answer is in the question. It's in part because of our success.
Yes.
Not just domestically here in Aotearoa, but we've got, the climate justice movement, international Indigenous rights movement, Black Lives Matter movement. We have been moving towards this space of social justice for many decades now, and it's making the far right and colonial oppressors very anxious. And one of the last things that they can do is really start to pull all those levers of power and privilege to try and reassert themselves in these roles of supremacy. So they've done that now across the world in many different places.
I don't know if it's necessarily a far-right thing. I feel like it's a government thing across the world. I feel like that a lot of countries are starting to dip into these sorts of tactics, for lack of a better term, to marginalise Indigenous, but just people.
They're all reading from the same playbook at the moment.
Yeah, but that's also far right as well. Right. So the global rise of the far right has happened around the world, and a part of that is that our global governance norms have been shaped out of colonialism.
Yes.
And so they're really trying to assert power to hold on to the supremacy that has been baked into that system, because now those rights movements have gone past just decolonizing by word and even by theory, and are now starting to challenge power.
Yes.
And it's when you start to challenge power and actual material resource, that's when they kind of reach their limit and go, we've given you too much now, and they start to pull on their levers of power and use the privilege that they have to shut things down.
So what can we actually do about this?
Continue to speak the truth. And one of the things to remember is that power does require a level of social license. It requires the support of the people, right? And so, and the support of the people requires an idea of being just, of being legitimate, of doing the right thing. And so the more that we're able to articulate what real justice looks like, then, the less legitimacy these systems of oppression will have. So we have to continue to tell our stories, to speak our truth, to articulate what justice looks like, to uphold our treaties. All of those things are really necessary. And every time we do that, the moral legitimacy of colonial power diminishes, and we move a step forward, regardless of what it is that they're saying and doing.
I feel like the only thing we can do is change the government. Is that the only sort of avenue we have to stop these changes, to stop this
Regression,
era
sort of thing?
of racism that we're living in right now? Is that the only mechanism that we have, the lever that we can pull on?
I'd say we have to change how we do government, not just change the government, because, and a part of this, you know, with the area that we work in with decolonisation and the doctrine of discovery, is understanding how insidious the system has been. And we see that also, this is a part of the birth of the kura kaupapa ko movement, right? Is that you actually need a complete shift in how we perceive things and what we value. And that's just as true in our systems of governance as it is in our systems of education. So simply putting brown people in a system that's made to benefit white people is not going to be the solution.
So I don't fully understand what you mean when you say change the way we government.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That means, so the Westminster system is the current system, and it operates with this idea of what they call the sovereign in Parliament. So that's taking this ultimate power and giving this ultimate power to government, as opposed to, and that's a centralised way of decision making. It centralises power. The way that we operated in relation to power prior to colonisation was a distributed power model. Hapu all had their own systems of power and management. And so these centralised models, I mean, that's a colonial construct,
that's
right?
going to take some time to...
I was going to say, is that possible though?
Well, this is exactly what Matike Mai and constitutional transformation discussion is all about.
Right.
So you know, Papa Moana had put a pin on the date of 2040, February 6, 2040. Okay. At that time, he thought, well, that's 25 odd years. Now it's 15 years. For us to deliberate and think about, you know, what might this look like? It's not unprecedented. There has been constitutional shifts in how people do government around the world. South Africa is an excellent example, but many other spaces around the world, you know, have done this. And actually, while they've done that, they've put a hold on all kind of legislation that has constitutional relevance, and they've said, okay, stop. No more laws that mess with our constitution whilst we figure out how we're going to govern in a way that's reflective of our distinct makeup as a nation.
It's interesting you use South Africa as an example. Donald Trump's using that as a tool to scare Pākehā in the US, around the world right now, using South Africa as he's offering refugee status to a lot of Pākehā from South Africa into America. Is that something we could be seeing here in Aotearoa?
Oh, I think we're already seeing white anxiety being stoked. Right. I mean, Don Brash is an expert at that. He's been doing that for many years. And I think we need to remember that when white anxiety, or colonial anxiety, I should say, is being stoked, what they're generally doing is they're stoking anxiety over your ability to be supreme. It's not got to do with your rights of existence. So, you know, Black Lives Matter and the Indigenous rights movement, trans rights movement, these are all about rights of existence. When Donald Trump and the far right start to action people's fear, it's about the fear of losing supremacy. And those are two very different things.
So until 2040, what else can we do?
We can wānanga. We can prepare for it, actually. So we must start
in terms of
doing the things that need to be done so that we are ready for the devolution of power. And that's only going to come with benefits, standalone benefits, whether the devolution happens or not, but we have to believe it's going to happen. We have to act as if it's going to happen. And a lot of these questions are things like, you know, what kind of mandating framework? Who gets the right to speak on behalf of our hapu? What's our jurisdictional framework like? So the jurisdiction of our takutai is different to our jurisdiction for our hauora. How will we work and coordinate ourselves at a local, regional, national and international level? What are our rights to treat? What else counts as a nation? So all of these things were never ceded, and those are all important kaupapa wānanga for us to engage in, and we'll only benefit from it anyway.
So often in other countries overseas, constitutional change happens after major conflict. Not always, but often. Do you think that needs to happen in Aotearoa?
I'd argue that we've been undergoing 180 years of conflict, and we've just kind of normalised it and started to absorb the hits because That's what we think. We don't need a conflict, but we also don't. It's already moving to a space where these international organisations have said, you need this change anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It doesn't require a conflict, and it also doesn't require a referendum, because multiple domestic and international legal bodies have said you need to make this change, or you need to enter into a conversation around the constitutional and political and legal status of Te Tiriti or Waitangi, because all of these findings have called into question the way that you currently govern and whether or not it's legitimate, really legitimate.
The government actually doesn't care.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's one thing, the international bodies advising Aotearoa to do so, but whether the government or the nation acts on their recommendation is another thing.
And so I think, none of these things stand alone by themselves as the solution, because you're quite right, the government doesn't seem to care, but also by the same token, the government likes to hang its own legitimacy upon some of these notions. And your idea of being a legitimate and effective form of government also hangs upon some of this international legitimacy as well. So it's one thing I would say is that they operate systemically. We need to also operate systemically and bit by bit remove those tokens of legitimacy. So now we also have UN bodies like the third committee that we're going to tomorrow. And so we're operating on their previous findings. They have also recommended that we needed to enter into a conversation around the constitutional status of Te Tiriti. And so, no, they don't care about that, but they also don't care about findings from the Waitangi Tribunal, but we must still use it. If we believe in it, we must still use it.
Can I just rewind our discussion?
Yeah, sure.
You were talking about 2040. That Moana Jackson said 2040. Ne? Now we're talking about Matike Mai. Ne? Excuse my total ignorance around this. Ne? What the hell is that?
Yeah, good question. So one of the fundamentals of understanding, of our treaty justice movement is the fact that it was not a treaty of cession.
Kia ora.
So if it was never a treaty of cession, when we were here prior to those boats arriving on the shores of Kaiti, we had not only access and rights to our world and everything, we had our own systems of governance.
Kia ora.
We had our own legal systems being tikanga. We had all of these things which account as a part of the Māori estate that we have the rights to retain regardless of somebody arriving here with big entitlements. And so at some point, the government decided that they would hold parliamentary sovereignty. That was never allowed for within Te Tiriti. Yes. So that was never allowed for within Te Tiriti, but in 1852 they asserted that they have the right to do that. And from that, I would say, parental violation of Te Tiriti drops out all of these other daily violations of Te Tiriti, which essentially boil down to people who do not have a legitimate claim on political authority exercising that illegitimate political authority over Māori, over our waters, lands and people.
Kia ora.
And so around 2010, the National Iwi Chairs from Poutikanga under Margaret Mutu contracted Papa Moana Jackson, Veronica Tāwhai and a number of others to engage upon exploring this, what our constitution might look like, how we govern might look like if it was really centred on Te Tiriti.
And I just did a little Google search. Held hui, held 250 hui across the country, engaged with over 10,000 Māori, looked at things like rangatiratanga, kāwanatanga, kotahitanga, all of these sorts of things. So, again, 2040.
Yeah, that's right.
And then what? So what? When 2040 comes along, is this when Matike Mai just kicks into gear, or?
Well, the idea is that, that's 250 odd hui, and what they've said is that we have this much time to prepare for a new system. So within that report, there are some discussions around how might we govern ourselves in a way that reflects Te Tiriti, and they talk in the sense of spheres, a kawanatanga sphere, a rangatiratanga sphere, and a relational sphere where they both come together. Those are meant to be conversation starters, because at the end of the day, if you're honouring Te Tiriti, it has to come from the hapu.
Right.
And so this is why we're saying, you know, our hapu right now, don't have to wait for 2040. Right now you can be considering these questions around how you might, engage or interface with other hapu, other regions at the iwi level. What's your relationship with iwi going to be like? All of those things you can start doing right now.
Are there areas where you can see where rōpū, iwi, whoever are operating in a sort of, I'm just going to make up this term, Matike Mai sort of construct, where we're starting to move towards to wānanga, that we could do things differently?
Oh, you know, I think there are some aspects that you can explore. So, you know, I remember some time ago I was watching my cousin Miriana Pittman. She happened to be, the clip itself, she was taking Baden to task about something in a hui in Kahungunu.
Yep.
And they had all of their hapu represented. Now it was a big hui.
Yeah.
All of their hapu were represented in that hui and had a spokesperson. And they were able to speak to the issues that mattered to them. And move things through. So I think, you know, at least that is a reflection. And I know it looks different in different parts of the motu. Whānau Apanui famously have a really strong focus on their hapu rangatiratanga as well. And so I think those are some hints at at some models that people might want to look at.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how about recognising those uri, Aotearoa Māori, who might not have as strong a connection to their hapu?
Yeah, that's a really powerful, and this is a part, needs to be a part of the wānanga.
Yeah.
Really is.
And the involvement of hapu.
Yeah, that's right. And so I know there's, you know, because there's tensions there.
Yes.
There's tensions between those who hold the power that rests with them by virtue of the settlement process.
Yeah.
And then there's the hapu that are the treaty signatories, really. And so we need to resolve those tensions so that they don't wind up getting resolved.
That's what I was smiling
in
about.
other spaces.
Can we really achieve this? You know, like
You got 15
we're talking
years.
about it,
15 years.
but we're talking about kotahitanga here.
Yeah.
You know, are we really going to achieve this?
And Tati Moti last week said, e kore te iwi Māori e kotahi hako pēhea.
Yeah.
Kei roto I o tātou ira, tēnei mea, te mana motu ake. Hako pēhea, e kore e ia tātou.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, so one, I believe you have to believe in our ability to be able to resolve these issues.
Yeah.
If we start from a space of not believing we can, we're certainly not going to.
Yeah.
Kia ora.
Yeah.
So
Kia ora.
we need to believe in our ability.
He did say that. He pai te tēnei me te wawata, whaia tērā.
Yeah, that's right.
He did say that.
And then you need to consider, you know, that in Pākehā contexts as well, I mean, it's kind of who has the right to stuff up. You know, like they assume they stuff up all the time as well. So, you know, considering the state of our waterways, the state of our water bodies, the state of our whenua and the state of our people, how could we do worse? You know, like they've done a pretty shoddy job. So I think it's believing in our ability to do it, but also allowing ourselves the grace to get it wrong.
Kia ora.
They're telling us to move on, but I got another question. If we were to sever, you know, change the constitution and maybe sever the ties with the Crown, what would that mean for treaty settlements?
Well, I
for
don't know.
governance models?
So I don't know that it's necessarily about severing ties with the Crown. It's about reframing it within being in right relationship with the Crown, as Te Tiriti expresses, and as those, you know, those tipuna of Te Tiriti expressed as well.
The government wants to wind us back to 1975. You're talking about winding us back to 1840.
Into
1814.
Yeah. No, well, our tupuna actually had a relationship. There was working together on certain kaupapa, and hey, as long as you follow the bike.
Well, what we build can be of today. What we build can be of today, but the issue is, what does justice look like? You know, and how can we carve a just future whilst we are turning our back on this parental injustice of who gets to hold power, who gets the right to allocate, who gets the right to hold purse strings, who gets the right to represent overseas. All of those things that were never ceded. If we're going to turn our back on that parental injustice, we will be facilitating just more injustice to continue to happen.
And so in terms of this haerenga ki te UN, and this assessment on
that's
how
right.
I am going to tie it in because we're talking about this injustice and this parental injustice, and we're talking about racism and this assessment that happens through the UN. What could this report or their decision do for us here in Aotearoa?
So one thing is that it does strip away the Western legitimacy. So we know that they don't care about tikanga. We know they don't care about us. But there is a level of legitimacy, democratic legitimacy and Western legitimacy that they do care about and
talking
rely
about the
upon.
government, though.
Our government, the Crown government.
Because,
And so you heard, like, for instance, David Seymour in his, I don't know, maybe you didn't listen. I sometimes, steadfastly don't listen to him. But if you listened to his submissions on the Regulatory Standards Bill and Treaty Principles Bill, he relies heavily around some of this human rights language and calls, treaty-based measures racism and relies heavily upon the social concept of racism as being inherently bad and then saying, well, this is racism and that's racially divisive. He uses South Africa and apartheid as well, but he misframes it. Now, these concepts around racism within Western governance don't come out of nowhere. They come out of these bodies of the UN. So we're going back there also to say to them, these concepts that you've developed, that you hold authority over, that you define, are being warped and then weaponized against the very groups that they're designed to protect. So that's one thing, is to put that right and to remove that as a weapon out of his hands. The other thing is that all of these moves through the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, this Convention on Racial Discrimination, and numerous other kind of instruments within the UN collectively can be used to place more international pressure on the government and also, if needs be, to take further legal action. So if there are further Supreme Court actions against this government, they can utilise some of that international legal...
Those levers.
Speaking of stripping away legislation, the changes to the Education and Training Act.
Oh, yes.
Taking out Te Tiriti o Waitangi from ngā whakaare o ngā poari o ngā kura. How detrimental is this going to be for our kura and our tamariki?
I think if it's kept in place in the long term, it will be detrimental.
Yes.
In the short term, and we've seen a number of kura have said,
Over
hei aha
500.
teira, we're still going to commit ourselves to Te Tiriti.
And they're almost operating as hapu in that sense. These kura communities, school communities saying, no, we're not going to do that.
And we've seen some, similar moves from local government as well, that there have been local councils that have said, well, you can say what you're going to say, but we've found great value in representation. And if you are going to remove our Māori ward, we'll simply find another way to make sure that happens.
That's why I wanted to be quite clear around. I do think that actually we're specifically talking about the government and certain people within the government, because I think New Zealand wide as a whole actually does care.
That's right.
I think our Kiwitanga, for lack of a better term, they actually do care about
Te Tiriti, human rights.
te oranga o te ao Māori. In fact, they've probably all got tamariki and whanaunga or whatever, So I do think as a whole, we do care. But the government,
What I was getting to earlier about, what else can we do until 2040, seems like the only thing that we can do is get out and vote next year. And I know you're a bit iffy on the system still, but how important is it really for our people to get out there and have a vote to try and change things next year?
Crucial. It is crucial that we get out there and vote next year, because, a lot of us who would be and would much rather be dedicating our energy into, projects of thriving and doing wonderful things, all of that energy is being diverted into, just stopping us from being extremely racist or, from this extreme harm under the current government. And so even just having a situation where it is less harmful, less violent than the current government, enables us to put our energy into other spaces. We, even under Labour governments, we're operating under a lot of racism. So we need to be honest about that. It still was not a situation of justice. Matike Mai was still being, sidelined and ignored under the Labour government as well.
Kia ora.
But we also have a lot more oxygen to be able to dedicate to all of these struggles when we're not having to fight and put out fires with every single finger and toe, that we have.
E te tuahine mihi ana ki a koe.
Kia ora.
Kua mimiti te wā kia tātou, but e te whānau tēnā koutou hono mai ki ene kōrero nei. If you've got any whakaaro, any other wānanga that you think we should go down in the future, write us a comment, and then possibly via Tino over here or Kiriam or someone will get back to you.
Kia ora.
There we go. Atua. E te whānau e mihi ana ki a koe, mena I mātakitaki koe I te katoa o te kiriata. Ka pai, tēnā, like, subscribe. Waiho mai o whakaaro ana hoki mā ngā tā kupu. He pai kia mātou. Something for the people. Te iha.